Oh, hey, everybody. Sorry, I was just ignoring you. Welcome to the channel. So today, obviously, we're talking about ignoring, because that's one of Neville's concepts as well. But Neville, to me, turns that into a technique. Okay, and there are techniques, there are science-backed techniques that will help you as well. So what does it mean to ignore? So a lot of people say drop the scene or ignore, right? Ignore doubts and so on and so forth. In fact, Neville says to ignore doubts, right? So what does that mean? What, is it connected to dropping a scene, right? How can we use this as a technique? All that good stuff. So let's get this party started. So the more that we think about something, the less that we're ignoring it, okay? And so the more that we give airtime to our unfulfilled desires, the more that we're actually focusing on it. So we're like, I'm trying to forget it, right? So again, like a really simple example of excitement, right? And no, I'm not paid by them. I should be though. But anyhow, excitement, right? I'm so not thinking about mint gum right now. And I'm so not thinking about how bad my breath smells on this camera. And I'm so not worried about how my wife is going to think about my breath. I'm so not, and fill in the blank, right? And so the more that you try to ignore something, the more it blows up, okay? The more that you try to say, I'm ignoring you, right? It does the exact opposite, okay? And the reason being is because our minds are linguistically contoured. What does that mean? It means language shapes our experience. Language guides our experience, how we talk about something, how we talk about ourselves. So for example, loads of people across social will choose these ridiculous, like crazy names or something like that, right? Like loser strikeout or something like that. And by the way, so you're literally compounding, right, the idea of being a loser, and then you're striking out. Okay. Now we're like, no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't influence us. That doesn't. Okay, listen. Even beyond manifestation, neuroscience, linguistic neuroscience shows that language impacts us every which way. Okay. So the reason why this is important is because when you're talking about ignoring something, or if you're like, I'm trying to ignore something, and you're like busting a gut, don't do that. Or at least bring toilet paper, because that's just rude for other people behind you. But like basically, when you're trying to ignore something, 999% of the time, okay, let's just say 1,000, but that amount of time, you're going to fail, because your brain is listening to you talk. Your brain is listening to what words you're choosing. That's not to fear. It does sound like Santa Claus though, right? And so what you have to realize is, hey, I've got to choose what I really believe, right? And this is why a lot of people will struggle with manifesting, because they're like, I've done all of the scenes and it's not worked. I've done it for 10 years. I've done it for 4 years. I've done it for 6 months. And yet they go out and they talk badly about whatever they're trying to manifest away from, or they react so much angrily towards whatever they're trying to manifest away, right? And so ignoring, by the way, and this is the key of this, ignoring is the natural process of becoming, okay? So did you hear that? Like ignoring is the natural process of becoming the person that you want, who has the thing that you desire, okay? So it's a natural state of becoming. Ignoring isn't forcing. You can't force ignore something, right? So it's actually taking energy away from the object that's distracting you, from the conversation that's distracting you, from the news that keeps kicking you out of state. Whatever it is, it's taking that away, right? And saying, I'm not going to mess with you, because right now my mind is in this space. It's not in this space. So ignoring something is actually taking your power back by taking responsibility for what you're choosing to let inside your mind, right? And part of that is also kind of analyzing what's coming out of your mouth, because that's also what's coming from your mind. right? And so you have to be very, very full aware, right, that you are a person who is like a container. In fact, the Apostle Paul says that we are jars of clay. What does a jar of clay do? It takes everything in, right? That's what a jar of clay does. We're containers for culture. We're containers for language. We're containers for memories. We're containers. So we're containers, right? And so we have to realize that what ends up happening is that if we accumulate enough energy behind an idea and we're like, I'm not affected by this. The very fact that you just said that you're not affected by it means you're affected by it. Because if you weren't affected by it, you wouldn't say it at all, right? And so ignoring is quite literally detaching yourself, right? But detaching is a natural element of becoming. So let me give you an example of what that means, because it sounds cool on a bumper sticker, okay? So let's say you want to fall in love with somebody, right? And which is an admirable like desire. Awesome. I want that for you. You want that for you. Your stranger wants that for you, whatever. So what ends up happening is that if you're trying to get in the state of the wish fulfilled, okay, but all you're doing along the way is, I'm ignoring that I feel lonely. I'm ignoring that I feel purposeless. I am ignoring that I feel celebrated. I'm ignoring, right, whatever it is that you attach to being in that relationship, okay? And you're like, no, get away, get away, get away. That's not what ignoring is, okay? But then if you are able to impress your subconscious mind, if you are able to get into the state, and remember, state is a body of beliefs, right? If you're able to get into the state or into the body of beliefs that prove to you, in here, you're that person now, right? Not tomorrow, not 5 minutes from now, okay? And that if you do it well enough and you do the impression, right? And Neville calls that the 6 days of creation, right? So again, people think, okay, I've got to muster up all this energy and I've got to just force the subconscious, and doesn't realize that 6 is just a psychological metaphor for how much mental energy it's going to take you to get to the point of conviction, of convincing yourself that you are the new person, right? Without effort. Now, here's the cool thing. When you do that, ignoring's natural. That's what this is all about today, okay? When you become the new person, so you're not ignoring, or you're not even trying to not ignore stuff while you're trying to become, right? And so when you're ignoring, and so then what are you doing? Okay, so if you're not ignoring, what are you doing? You're reframing then. You give it a different meaning, right? So if you just saw your SP with a 3P, a third person, right? And well, then just be like, oh yeah, that's their cousin. Somebody that you probably don't even know. Oh, that's just your best friend from school like 20 years ago. Or whatever it is, right? You give it a different meaning. So then you change and alter not just your mind, but even the chemistry pattern of, that just made me nervous. That just made me feel like I was about to lose something. That just made me feel like this was impossible. So reframing it, meaning giving it a different name, giving it a different title, giving it a different phrase, giving it a different meaning. All of those are different forms of reframing, okay? Give it a powerful one. Give it one that doesn't mean anything to you, okay? So ignoring is not about trying to muster up force or push anything out of your mind, okay? And then Neville says that if something comes up like doubt, he says just ignore it. So that's what he means by ignore it, because we sometimes forget that a lot of what Neville did and how he wrote and when he wrote it is that he's writing from his own past experiences of how he's used and experienced the law. So we think when he says ignore it, he means this will take you a second to ignore. Nope. And it may take you 6 months to ignore. Whatever it is. And by the way, don't give it a timeline, because in here, there is no time. Time doesn't exist, right? So what you want to do is you want to get to the point to where you understand that ignoring is not force. It's not exertion. You're not crapping yourself, right? Trying to actually say, I ignore this. No, it's a natural happening that occurs after you now are the person who you want to become, okay? So ignoring is the natural after effect of giving you yourself your desire. Ignoring is the natural after effect of feeling satisfied and knowing that the desire is yours. Okay? So hopefully this was helpful. If it wasn't, well, that's why I'm a coach and that's why I do what I do. But I'm going to do more on these as well. So thank you for listening. Thank you for jumping on. Leave your questions and thoughts in the comment thing below, and hit subscribe, and tell your friends, and tell your mom's friend, and all this kind of stuff. So much love to you guys all, and be safe in the world. Talk to you soon.